We're going to start learning how to measure time increments. This is an analog clock. It tells time by having parts move around the clock. The numbers that you see on the inside of the clock that are represented in red here are the numbers that represent the hours. When the clock hands move around the clock and it's the time on the hour hand will point to one of these red numbers. Remember, the hour hand is the shorter of the two hands, and it points to the numbers around the inside of the clock. The tick marks that travel around the outside of the clock represents minutes. So when the time moves past the hour, the minute hand will point to the individual tick marks. So at 1 o'clock, we are directly on the hour, so our minute hand is directly on the beginning of our circle. Another way of showing that is 0 minutes. Notice that the hour hand is pointing to the 1 for the first hour, and the minute hand is directly up. And we would write this time 1 hour, 0 minutes, or 1 o'clock. We'll talk a little bit more about the two different 1 o'clocks later. Okay, you'll notice that there are 12 hours on the analog clock, but there are 24 hours in a day, and that's why 1 o'clock happens twice every day. Okay, so now as the hour starts to go past 1 o'clock, the hands start to move. The minute hand will travel to 1 minute past, followed by 2 minutes past, 3 minutes past, 4 minutes past, and 5 minutes. So in between each of the hour numbers are 5 tick marks, or 5 minutes. Therefore, when the minute hand is pointing in this direction, it's 5 minutes past the hour. Watch what happens to the hour hand as we move around the clock. Okay? Remember before at 1 o'clock the hour hand was directly on the 1? Well, as the minute hand moves around the minutes of the clock, the hour hand also starts to move away from the 1 and towards the 2. So let's say that 30 minutes have passed since 1 o'clock. That means our minute hand would be pointing down to 30 minutes past, and if we counted all of these tick marks, there would be 30 of them. But now our hour hand is halfway between the 1 and the 2 because it is half of an hour past 1 o'clock. And it's also a half hour more until we get to 2 o'clock. So this time is 30 minutes past 1, and we write it like this. Our hour is still 1, but 30 minutes have passed. So this is 1:30. You can also read this as half past 1 or 30 minutes past 1 o'clock. Okay, now our minute hand is going to continue to move 1 minute at a time until we get to the next hour, which is 2 o'clock. So let's say our minute hand is here. If we count by fives, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 45 minutes have gone by since 1 o'clock, and now we're getting closer to 2 o'clock. So the hour hand is actually going to start approaching the 2. It's moved away from the 1, it's more than halfway past, and it's approaching the 2, not yet touching it. So this time is 45 minutes past 1 o'clock, or 1:45. So our hour is still 1 because it's not 2 yet, and the minutes are 45, 1:45. We can read this another way. Because we're getting close to 2 o'clock, there are this many more minutes until we get to 2 o'clock. And if we count from our starting point backwards, we'll see that it's 5, 10, 15 more minutes until 2 o'clock. So 1:45 can also be read as 15 minutes before 2. And since 15 minutes is a quarter of an hour, if we took our clock and divided it into 4 equal parts, each 15-minute block is a quarter of an hour. So we could also say that 1:45 is a quarter to 2. Let me draw that again so we can see it. Okay? Our hour hand was approaching the 2. Our minute hand was on 45. We call this a quarter to 2. 1:45. Okay, so let's recap. Each of these numbers on the inside of the clock represent hours. The hour hand moves around the clock as time elapses or goes by. The numbers on the outside of the clock represent minutes, and there are 5 minutes in between each of the numbers, the hour numbers. So 5, 10, 15, 20, all the way around for 1 hour. Notice that there are 60 minutes in an hour. A half hour is 30 minutes, and the quarter hours are 15-minute increments. So this would be a quarter past the hour, and this would be a quarter till the hour. Okay, so for every time that's on the clock, we can read it using the hours and minutes. So here's one more example. Here's my hour hand, and here's my minute hand. Okay, notice that the hour hand is just past 4 o'clock, so our hour is 4, and our minute hand is 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 36, 37. So our hour is 4:37. And 4:37 is moving on to 5 o'clock. We can count the minutes before the hour to figure out another way of saying 4:37. So here's 5, 10, 15, 20, 21, 22, 23. 23 minutes before 5 o'clock. 4:37 and 23 minutes before 5 o'clock are the same time. So now that we know how to use an analog clock, we can tell time both traditionally and digitally.